Hey guys, and welcome back to Live Well in Yoga. I'm your host, Christine, and I have my good friend Sachil here with me. Thanks, Sachil, for coming back to the podcast.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, it's always really fun to connect with you and just be on this podcast and have a conversation together. And I'm really excited for this new season because not only is it episode 2, it's season 2, and this is a new platform. Season 1 was on Spotify, which was all solo episodes, and it's just audio. So I'm excited for this new chapter of the podcast and welcoming Sachel back on again. And so we thought to start off with these cards that Sachel has brought. Can you share what cards these are?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Okay. So they come from a game called We're Not Really Strangers. It's a game that is really centered around connection and connecting with those who are playing. So it's meant to kind of evoke more vulnerability and like intimacy, which is really fun. They're just random questions, but there are 3 levels. There's perception. I believe there's one that's connection. And then there's one that's like even deeper.
A reflection.
Yes. So super fun. I didn't think that would be the best game for today, but I saw that they had a self-love expansion pack.
Okay.
And I thought that was very fitting. This one's really fun too because it breaks it up into past, present, and future. Okay. So we can kind of jump around and just see. There's really no rules to the game. It's just fun.
Oh, yeah. I'm really excited.
Do you want to start?
All right. Okay. What's your favorite way to move your body? It would be yoga, of course. For me, yoga has really been, I guess, the catalyst for my change. It's just mind and body connection. And so with yoga, I just feel like it's allowed me to become a little bit more spiritual as well and just become more self-aware. And just over time through my practice, just learning different poses, I feel like I've been challenged, well, mentally and also physically. And I feel like the physical strength I've gained and along with the mental strength, but just from day one, say there's like pose I couldn't do. And then over time, I'm able to do that pose. And so now with, I've been really consistent over the past few years. And when I don't do yoga for a few days and when I come back to it, it's like my body says like, thank you so much.
Yeah. I love that. And I can definitely see that. And it's very encouraging because I think there's a glow, like an after effect that comes through kind of releasing that energy through yoga. And you're so right. I think the more that you practice it, you learn how much it like encourages discipline mentally, for sure. Like you have to really be in the right mindset with yoga. I just recently kind of stepped into yoga, so I
love that.
Nothing about it.
No.
But I know it makes you feel really good.
Yes.
And I love the idea of setting your intention in the practice. That is like a new kind of idea for me, and I didn't realize how important it was until the more you start doing it.
Yeah. And
you really have to believe in the moment that you can do whatever challenging pose.
Yeah, and I first started because years ago I had a sciatica flare up.
And I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so when I went to the doctor and they recommended physical therapy. And so with physical therapy they told me to do some yoga moves. And so I practiced that because I didn't have a strong core. And so these yoga moves really focused on core and balance. And so that's how I kind of got into yoga.
That's crazy. I had no idea that that's kind of what started your journey.
Yeah. And then, so I had to really reroute my fitness routine because I used to jog a lot. You know, I couldn't do that anymore. And so I really just honed in on yoga.
I love that. I love that. I love the like the trial and error that comes through fitness too. I think that's such a good point because you have to really be enjoying it, I think, to like really reap the benefits of moving your body. And we're so blessed and lucky. Like I can't stress that enough how lucky we are to be able to move our bodies. So the fact that we can even answer this question, I think it's really special. And I just kind of wanted to draw attention to that for 1 second. But it is so true. Like it's really hard sometimes too, especially if you're not used to it, if it's something that like you didn't grow up with or anything like that, to really find what works for you. And it can be really discouraging if you're not really enjoying it. So I think that's a really good point of like needing the trial and error and learning like how you can best enjoy it and maximize on that.
And what really works for your body.
Yeah, for
you
your
know?
body. Exactly.
And,
Like understanding your body, understanding your limits, still understanding like where you can challenge yourself without feeling like you're overextending yourself. I think is so important. Hearing your body when it needs rest and like leaning into that for sure is something that I think comes with time too, and like comes through the practice. No matter what you're doing, whether that's like HIIT or yoga or anything like that, it's just fun and it's so crazy. I was thinking about this recently. Like, I love the idea of like adult sports and leagues and things like that, and like just being able to run as an adult, like
It's like carefree.
yeah,
and
it's very
yeah.
carefree, and we like miss out on that for so many years. Like if you're not an athlete and you know this is not what you do, it's not something that you've invested time in, you miss out on that for a long time. And so like stepping back into that as an adult, it's just playful and that just brings so much joy.
Yeah.
I love too the idea of bringing up dancing
Yeah,
as a form of
dancing's
cardio.
fun.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It just speaks to your soul. I think it's just finding the joy through the movement is everything.
And it just changes your vibe, your energy, and your mood.
You can feel it. Yeah, we really are so lucky and blessed. I love that question.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a
That's
good question.
good, yeah. I actually love this. So it's how have you been asked to change? It's very rare that you're directly asked
Right.
to change.
Yeah.
But I think that the universe and people in your life have a really interesting way of asking you in very subtle ways.
Yes.
So not direct, but they kind of like gently nudge you. And I feel like I've been asked to change and many times in the past like year. I think it goes into also my friendships with people. So I've met a lot of new people in the past year, which has been really exciting and new and fresh. And I think through those interactions, because it's kind of out of my comfort zone, because we're not used to each other yet in the best way possible, I am having to reflect a lot more on how I'm either like presenting myself or how am I being the best friend, listener, how am I being the most present that I can be with people. So that has required me to really start thinking about those things. And it makes you just really like wonder what you could be doing better to really step forward in the best way.
I love that because sometimes we don't even know we have to change, you know?
Yeah.
Like not in the best way possible, like
Yeah.
you said too, but it's all about like growth and personal growth and self-reflection.
Yeah, it's all a very positive change
Yeah.
too. Like it's not like, you know, I meet these new people and like I immediately notice things that go wrong. Or actually like everything is great, and that is what like is most motivating because I'm like, oh wow, like I love what is being brought out of this person. I love what's being brought out of myself throughout this connection. Like how can I find more of that in everyday life? Like how can I really like maximize this experience and this feeling to really capitalize on all of the good things that are coming through that? And it really just encourages you. So the universe is indirectly asking us, because that's really what it is. And I heard somebody recently describe an interaction with somebody new as their spiritual warrior or something like that, which I thought was so interesting and fun.
That is.
Because it is kind of, in a sense, like, you know, like it's almost like a vessel. Like it's a vessel to like really feel connected to other people and feel connected with yourself and sit with yourself and sit with like your characteristics and what you really like bring to others, and learn from that. So
Yeah.
it's really positive and exciting. I love the inspiration that comes through meeting new people
Yeah.
in your life, especially as you're kind of transitioning into new chapters and figuring out what you want.
Going into new chapters of your life, it's like you're already growing, so the people you're attracting reflects your own energy in a
Yeah.
way, and so
Yeah.
you're just inspiring each other, in that new, I guess, new chapter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It really is a reflection of what's in your heart and your mind. So it's just exciting to see it come to
Yeah.
life and come to fruition
Yeah.
through those relationships. Should we stay in present or should we skip to future?
Future.
Skip to future?
Let's future.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
Future.
try it.
Okay. So I'll just grab this guy. Okay. What's one thing about yourself you don't want to forget? Well, I feel like I've had this feeling of just finding my authentic self, I guess. It's lingered throughout my 20s and 30s. And it's just come back full circle, like into my 40s. But it's like through this path of, I guess, self discovery or just my own wellness journey. You kind of go through different detours, but it's always, I feel like I'm cycling back to where I'm supposed to be. I don't want to forget who I am. It's pretty much it, my authentic self. What's one thing about yourself you don't want to forget? It's just, yeah, my authentic self. And I feel like, yeah, just through my own journey of friendships and relationships, I've kind of went on detours, but I've always come back to me. It's always come back to me. And I've had this kind of energetic feeling of motivation, determination. I've been pulled back and forth, but I feel like the motivation has always been there to just circle back to myself and just meeting who I am in order to meet new friendships. Like, I've met you along the way and just really finding friendships in a circle that really aligns with me. So I
Yeah.
think that my driving force is my motivation, determination, but it's always just coming back to finding my authentic self.
I
I
love
think
that.
that's, a short answer, but I feel like it's just, coming back to just me.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, a lot of times things don't have to be long to like really just be true. And
Yeah.
it made me wonder, you've brought up kind of how you've experienced your authentic self throughout your 20s, your 30s, and your 40s. How do you feel like that has changed? Do you feel like it has always kind of felt the same, like knowing who you are? And at what point did you really start realizing who you are?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I feel like when I look back in my 20s and 30s, I don't think I saw it. I just kind of went with the flow with friendships and relationships. And I want to say it was towards my mid to end 30s when I didn't really feel aligned with just my surroundings. But there was like an energy inside that was like, no, you need to go find yourself. You need to go meet yourself again. It took a few years, but I want to say it wasn't until like even my late 30s or early 40s when I figured it out. I mean, I'm always evolving, but when I really found a sense of self, I'd want to say in my 40s, just through everything, like the past experiences, I learned, okay, those decisions I made weren't a reflection of me. They were just maybe based off maybe a childhood trauma or something like that, or maybe a bad experience. And so I attached myself to certain experiences, like even bad experiences. Okay, well, that really wasn't my character.
Yeah.
It was just a reaction based on maybe a bad experience or a trauma that I needed to heal. But I feel like I discovered or I'm coming closer to myself, I would say, like in my 40s. Just through my yoga practice for sure, just from meditation, even therapy, and just self-reflection and self-healing, and just really aligning with things that work for me. So yeah.
I like that. I love the idea too of like the healing process throughout all that, because obviously I can only imagine how different your life might feel 20, 30, and 40.
Yeah.
And I think that like even like my experiences, like I felt that way too. And we've always, like I've always felt the same since I was a kid, if we really think about it. But obviously, so much has happened, and like things get added on and layered onto who you are at your core. And
Yeah.
it's hard to find what should stay and what needs to go. Like if we're talking about attachments and childhood trauma and like all of the like insecurities and things that can build up, the things that we don't necessarily want to live through. I don't want to say get rid of altogether, because it really like
It's a
creates
part
who
of,
you
yeah.
are. Yeah, like it really builds you up. And but healing those things. And I heard somebody say something recently. It was on a podcast, and he said if you have a wound on your leg, you're not just going to amputate it immediately.
Yeah, that's very
You're
true.
gonna try and heal it
Yeah.
first.
Uh-huh.
And it's very true. And I think that process through kind of your life and the decisions that you're making, the people that you're choosing to be around, seeing how that's shaped you and how you've still stayed really true to who you are, and that shine that you talk about
Yeah.
being within all of us, because it is,
Yeah.
and seeing how that just kind of you can polish it throughout the years is so like comforting. It makes me feel so excited for you, for myself. It's inspiring. I think it's a really good example of how you can feel inspired by the people that you choose to
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
spend
for
time
sure.
with. Yeah, and it's just exciting to think about how that's just constantly going to continue to change. And when we think about being 60 and 70 and 80 years old, like we're still growing throughout all of that, and the roles that we play, you know, if we have family, if we have kids, and all of a sudden you're, you know, grandma and different things like that. Things
Hopefully
like,
not anytime soon.
There's still so much though,
Yeah,
you know,
right,
like
right.
we have so
There-
much
so much.
life. Yeah. And if we're lucky enough and blessed enough to continue to explore that and experience that, then it's just even more exciting and motivating to just continue to put in the work every day through, you know, these kinds of conversations and healing and all of that good stuff. It just feels good. It's really exciting.
Yeah, because we have that shine inside, but as
Yeah.
over the years, we get, like you said, the layers, whether it's judgment, criticism, fear, you know, all these layers build up, and then that shine starts to dim.
Yeah.
And so it's reflective in our energy. But once we could unpeel those layers through healing or whatever device that fits for you and your lifestyle,
Yeah.
to unpeel those layers to bring back that shine, that's when your authentic self truly comes out again.
Yeah.
You know?
It's so true. And you get into these like untapped parts of yourself that you haven't felt in years.
Yeah.
Like I think about like being a kid, and, you know, maybe there was like one thing that happened that like created some dirt on my shine or created some dust on my shine, and the feeling of being able to remove it and then feel the same joy that I felt at 7 or 8 years old or anything like that is such a exciting and really comforting feeling. And just knowing, like, I think the idea of bringing out youthfulness in your life is so important too, because it really just it's a reminder of like having feeling, like we have these emotions and they never really change. They just get bigger. Things just get bigger. We get bigger. Our hearts get bigger. Our brains get bigger. Everything just increases in size. And that is where like the extensions of ourselves, or like just feeling like the abundance and like the energetic flow and things like that, I think really comes is just tapping into who you are at your core, and then seeing how to capitalize on that in every single way possible. It's the pursuit, and I think in that is the reward, and just sitting there is amazing.
It is. And another part to answer the question too, I think when I found, when I realized, I guess, that aha moment, you know, I think it's, I'm just really grateful for our friendship, but even like the friendships I have around me, because they are a reflection of the growth. And so it's, you know, it's like when you make space for that, it's just a feeling of like gratitude and just joy and love
Yeah.
with who you surround yourself with, and then who you're allowing into your life. And then not to say that the past was wrong or
Yeah.
whatever, but you kind of redirect, or you strengthen those other relationships, in a more positive way. So everything has come together. I feel like, especially with my friendships, and then, and the
Yeah.
people I surround myself with, it's just a reflection of everything. It's kind of like when you do the work, like you could say, I'm going to have a checklist of to lose 15 pounds. I'm going to have the best friends. I'm going to find my tribe. But when you just give back to yourself, everything unfolds, and all of a sudden it's like magically there.
Yeah.
Like you don't know, like it just happens. It's like an
true.
energy flow. It just happens.
Yeah, and time goes by fast.
Yeah.
And you're not thinking about it. Things just
Right.
move, and then all of a sudden you're there.
You're there, like all of a
Yeah.
sudden the 15 pounds, they're gone. You're like, wait, what did you
Now
know?
what?
Yeah. You're like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like just
Yeah.
really enjoying that.
Right.
And like taking your time, I think too. Like really
exactly.
like being present throughout all that is so exciting. And I think to your point, it really gives you a sense of pride
Yeah.
when you think about like the people that you're around, and like the investment that you've made into like your tribe. And
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that's
I
a
love it
crazy
so much.
question. That
Isn't
wasn't
it?
it?
Yeah. This is why I love this game,
Yeah.
because it just kind of spirals
Uh-huh.
in the best way possible.
Right.
But it's really fun.
Yeah.
And sometimes too, I think it's like you don't always have to. Everyone doesn't have to answer the question, or it's very like flows organically.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. This one's really interesting. I don't know if we skip it or if we try.
Okay.
But what do you consider yours?
That's a good one.
It's really tough.
You can answer that in so many different directions.
I know. I feel like. Oh, I think that this is a great question, and if we're talking about like friendships and kind of what brought us here today,
Yeah.
I think it's really important to see friendships as gifts and not possessions. Relationships too. So I think the idea of like what's yours, we're like gifted all these things in our lives, and they are almost they're part of you, and they're like extensions to who you are, but they're not yours in a possessive way. It's just like a really like interconnectedness, I guess, but I don't know.
It's like you said, expansion. It's an
Yeah.
expansion of ourselves and a reflection of ourselves.
A reflection.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that I love the idea of like what's yours is really being a mirror. And I know we talk about that a
Yeah.
lot, but it is really true. I see a lot of my friends as mirrors, and even if we're very different in a lot of ways, I know that there's something within them that I either like relate to, really admire, aspire to be like, like I think that there's so much inspiration. There's a
Yeah.
lot of like seeds of inspiration and sources of inspiration through your relationships and your friendships. Even if we're talking about like romantic partners, I think it's really important to like ask yourself how you relate to your partner in that sense as a mirror. And I think that gets a little bit more complicated, but it really, actually it doesn't. I want to take that back. I think it's not complicated once you kind of release expectations through love.
Yes.
Like if you
For sure.
lessen expectations from other people, you lessen the possessiveness, you lessen kind of the idea of something of owning or having like claim over anything, especially through friendships and relationships.
Yeah.
But we're all our own individual people.
Yeah.
And as much as we're reflective of each other, we are our own person.
Yeah.
And you will never understand fully what it's like to be somebody else, and nobody will ever understand fully what it's like to be yourself. So I think giving yourself to that validation of like everything that you have is within you. We talked about that last time too, and I think that's really important because nobody else will do that for you. Nobody else can, because they will never know.
Yeah.
They've never stepped in your shoes. And I say that from a way of like admiring where everybody else has been and the fact that we all walk our own paths. And I have so much respect for that and the respect for
Yeah.
you and, you know, all of the people in my life, all of my friends and families, and just knowing that there's a reason why we do everything.
Yeah.
And so it really is like our story and our history and everything that we feel is truly the only thing that's ours. It's not necessarily the friendships, it's not the mirroring, it's not the relationships or what we do or hobbies, but it really is just everything that is stemming from what's inside.
What's inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that because, you know, we were saying earlier, we go through different versions of ourselves, but,
Yeah.
you know, the friendships we have are a reflection of us. And then as we grow, we're attracting like-minded, or like you said too, we're just learning or aspiring from that person or friendship.
Yeah.
And then having, I also like how you said, you know, just limit or just don't even have the expectation.
Yeah.
Because that could lead to either a letdown or just thoughts that don't need to be there.
Yeah.
Because you know, everyone's going through their own path and they only have the capacity to do so much. And so if we have an expectation for them, you know, they may not have the capacity for it, or our expectation they may have a capacity for more.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
we're
very
we're
true.
actually could be limiting them if we have an expectation. They could exceed our expectation. You know, so just not having that expectation and just allowing people to be who they are, and it's just up to, you know, you or myself to decide if this situation works.
Yeah, and it's all fair and
Right.
like open, and I think that's such a beautiful way of describing that. And I think too, it really allows people just to be who they are without pressure. That's when you're gonna get the best version of everybody. Is
Right.
when there's no pressure attached, there's no expectations.
Yeah.
There's really just like an understanding of I want to see you for who you are.
Yeah.
I want to know you for who you are, and that is the most validating feeling.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful when it comes from the people around you. Again, I think sometimes it's not always a guarantee though, so I think it's really important to find that within yourself
Right.
too. And then also I think that encourages other people to be that way around you. So when you have a really solid foundation within yourself,
Yes.
if you're giving yourself that sense of like lessening expectations of what you are putting on yourself and the pressure that you're putting on yourself, it allows you to be your authentic self, and in turn everyone around you will want to do the same.
Yeah.
It really creates a safe space,
Yeah.
which is I think really beautiful because it's something that can be really dual sided. I don't know if that's really the right word, but it's something that creates a safe space for yourself. It also
Yeah.
creates a safe space for the people around you.
Yeah.
Which I think is really important
Yeah.
and just exciting, and it feels just good. This is like the best part about being a human being, and the best part about being you know, here existing in whatever it is that you
Yeah.
know are
Yeah.
existing in the universe. Like it just feels good. It feels right.
And it's true. Like it is like a reflection of how we feel inside.
Yeah.
So, you know, it comes back to self-care and self-love, because how you treat yourself is what you're going to surround yourself with.
Yeah.
You know, how you treat yourself is how others are going to treat you as well.
Yeah.
And so that is a reflection of your surroundings, like your friendships, any relationships, you know? So yeah.
It's so true. I love that. I love the idea too of like the thoughts that you think and the words that you speak being the house that you live in. That's really important.
Yeah.
I've heard that and I like resonate highly with that. I think it's really important to think about like you are building kind of your home with you're thinking about these concepts and what do you want that to look like, and does it feel good? And, it's just huge. It's fun too because it's just always evolving. I don't think we'll ever get to like a perfect place, and we talked about that last time too, that perfection is really impossible, and so it's just knowing that this is something that's constantly going to evolve, constantly going to grow. I think is really exciting, and then it creates just the idea that we have endless opportunity. Everything is really, really boundless in that sense, which is just beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think it's just encouraging to think about your past, present, and future self
Yeah.
too.
Hmm. And we have the choice to do that.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we have a choice. And if we give our energy, what we give our energy to is, we could be distancing ourselves from another energy. We have to be authentic to ourselves and be true to ourselves. So what we give our energy to, whether it's good or bad, we may not be giving the energy to the right thing.
Yeah.
But, it's just up to you to decide what feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's hard to just discern that. Yeah, it's hard to know what feels right,
Right.
especially if you come from a place of like indecision, or if you have high expectations of yourself, if you have like a very particular vision for yourself, if you have really specific goals in your life, or like comparison. There's endless reasons why.
Yeah.
But it's really hard when those are your motivating factors, or those are your driving force, to find discernment. And that's where confusion is built, is whenever you're really not prioritizing yourself, or prioritizing your like really deep rooted like natural desires and aspirations as a person. I think that a lot of confusion comes in when you're looking at the external,
Right.
and it's hard to figure out whether something sometimes is external or internal. I think it requires a lot of self-reflection. It requires a lot of work.
Yes,
but
definitely.
it becomes a lot more natural the more that you do it too.
Yeah.
And it really sounds like such a simple, almost like a loaded answer, or
Yeah.
a loaded question of like, how do you know it feels right?
Yeah.
Like, but you really just know. I think we complicate things like way more than we should. Like, and I think we spend a lot of time in the realm of confusion because we know the answer.
Yeah.
And maybe we're having a hard time accepting that too. And
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of suffering leads. That's where like the confusion, that's where everything that makes things complicated sits, is whenever we're not accepting, or we are trying to make something work that doesn't feel right.
Right.
Like it stems from places that just extends not feeling good.
And I think too, like the confusion can be about temporary gratification.
Yeah.
Like we feel, in the moment, it could be
Yeah.
just we're good, we feel good about it, but it just could be temporary versus long term.
Yeah.
And like you said, when we take a look at our own, like our authentic selves and our standards and our beliefs and our values versus just that external, I guess, validation versus the internal, the choice could really be so clear.
Yeah.
But, it could be foggy at the same time because we attach to this, maybe the temporary gratification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're fighting with the ego too
Yes,
throughout all of this.
for sure.
And that's such a hard journey on its own. And something that too, I think, changes depending on different chapters that you're in, or
Yeah.
different versions that you're kind of sitting in with yourself. And that's another thing too, I think, really accepting all versions of yourself as one.
Yeah.
I think we talk about that too, is like kind of moving into these different chapters, or but it's all one.
Yeah.
Like it really
Yeah.
is all you. We like think about
Right.
even the inner child and things like that. Like we
Yeah.
are always in the same state. It
Yeah.
just kind of, our environment changes and we learn more, and we just
become
get
wiser.
better. We become wiser. This is very true.
We become wiser, but are we actually using our wisdom?
It's true. Sometimes we're not.
Yeah. Hopefully, but yeah.
Yeah.
That was a really good question.
I
I
love
love all
that
these questions so
I
far.
know, it's really good.
No, or like past
funny.
selves. No,
But
go deep.
we can do a
Okay.
little sponsorship. And just have it there.